Chapter 1 is all about the Trinity, and it's really the only chapter that doesn't fit into the Genesis to Revelation framework. The reason that I thought it was important to talk about the Trinity before I got into Genesis was just for the fundamental way in which the character of God and what God is like shapes the whole of reality and in a sense shapes all of our expectations for the whole Bible, from Genesis 1 right through to Revelation as well. And in the chapter, I try and split it down into, how many have we got here? We've got 4 sections. The first one that is what I call no vanilla God, which means that there's no such thing as just God generically, unless you've got such an abstract idea of God that it really makes no difference at all to the world. The God of the Bible is a very specific sort of God. And he's very specific in 3 ways. The first one is that he's both absolute and personal. He's absolute in the sense that he is ultimate reality. If you dig down to the bedrock of our universe, beyond our universe, that deeper than, more fundamental than which there is nothing, what you hit eventually is not matter, it's not forces, it's not light or energy, it's God. God is fundamental. God is absolute in that sense. He's not contingent. He's not part of the universe that he's created. He's fundamental. But he's also personal. God has a personality, if you like, in the Bible. He's not related to as an abstract life force or as an impenetrable, mystical anything. He is related to personally. And it's this combination, it's when you've got both of those together, absoluteness and personality, that you begin to get a handle on how the biblical God is really quite deliciously unique in the pantheon of the gods of history. You've got plenty of absolute gods, you've got plenty of personal gods, but an absolute and personal God really is a bit of a game changer in terms of the way that we can think about reality. So God is absolute and personal. Secondly, God's relational, because of course there isn't just simply the Father, but there's the Father, the Son and the Holy Spirit. There's a Trinity of gods right from the beginning, and I tease out some of the verses where this is clear in the Bible, that the Son relates to the Father, and has a sort of a two-way relationship with him and so forth. And again, this really does change everything in the sense that it means that relationships are not an afterthought in our universe. That fundamentally, at the bedrock of our universe, in an irreducible way, you can't pull one of the persons of the Trinity out of the Trinity. In an irreducible way, relationship is part of the warp and woof of this reality. And of course, that has knock-on implications for human relationships and relationships with creation and all sorts of things. So we're not essentially atoms that then get plonked together and have to figure out how to relate to each other. There's a fundamental relationality in the universe. And the third thing that I try and unpack in this first chapter is that the nature of those relationships is not neutral. It doesn't say the Father related to the Son before the creation of the world. That the language that's used over and over and over again of this in the Bible is love. The Father loved the Son. John 17, the love that I had for you, you had for me before the creation of the world. And this, again, puts love right at the very bedrock of the universe. It's not something that emerges, halfway down the evolutionary line in a way that sort of makes it easier to survive or something like that. There's a fundamental, irreducible nature to love, which is really quite wonderful, isn't it? And really quite challenging as well. And I try and unpack some of the ways in which it's both of those in the first chapter. I don't think I've got time to go into them now. But the more you think about that, love is fundamentally in our universe. I think the more fantastic it gets and the more confronting and challenging it gets as well. I invite you to think about that. Probably when you finish watching this video rather than drifting off as I'm talking. And that's it. That's the Trinity chapter.